Nurgle's all about tanking damage, right? And while the Exalted Great Unclean One is no doubt a fantastic lord choice, I myself am also a pretty big fan of the Herald of Nurgle. He is substantially cheaper than the Exalted Great Unclean One, and on foot he is painfully slow, but gets knocked around quite a bit and still has a lot of HP for a foot character. He also has this wonderful AoE heal here, the Locus of Fecundity, which gives an area of effect 0.8 heals per second, 0.8% heals per second, and -1 vigor per second. So it gives a vigor refresh and a heal in an area of effect, max 3 times uses, but that combined with the fact that he can, of course, take the Fleshy Abundance heal, and with the Army ability heal, you can definitely output a lot of healing onto your army. The main recipient of that healing in this build is going to be these 2 Chaos Spawn in the initial force. I've got 2 more Chaos Spawn as reinforcements, 2 Beasts of Nurgle in the reinforcements as well. My initial force, yeah, the Herald, the 2 Spawn. We've got a Forsaken of Nurgle, got 1 Plague Bearer, 2 Furies of Nurgle, and 2 Nurglings as well. And then, of course, like I said, 2 Spawn in reserve. The Cultist, he's on foot with just the Summon, and it doesn't actually show the correct ability set here in the loading screen, but I am doing it this way because, of course, can't see the reinforcements once we load into the battle, as you should know by now. But 2 Beasts of Nurgle, 2 Forsaken of Nurgle, 4 Toads, 2 more Furies, and 3 more Nurglings. Turin's Cathay here, he's coming in with Meow Ying and the 2 Terracotta Sentinels. 3 Peasant Long Spears for some infantry support. This is a pretty heavy single entity spend on your initial force, so very limited infantry, but then coming in with the infantry spam on reinforcements, 4 Jade Warriors, 4 Jade Warrior Crossbows, 4 Jade Lancers, 4 Peasant Horsemen, 1 Jade Halberd, and 1 Crane Gun as well. So let's jump in. We're on the Crossing of the Sea of Claws Domination map. So my idea here is we're just going to move up and secure an objective with the Herald and the Spawn and kind of keep my infantry force all together initially, and then use Vanguard and mobile reinforcements like the Toads and the Nurglings and the Furies to go after the peripheral objectives, right? Kind of giving away my secret strat here, but this is definitely one way that Nurgle can play. So you can see from my deployment here, we've just got everything stacked up in the center. Forsaken and Plague Bears together in case we need to do some damage or tank some damage, right? And then again, the Spawn coming in, Furies pushing out far away, Turin immediately going for the center objective with both of the Terracotta Sentinels and Meow Ying, Peasant Long Spearman as well. No one's currently in harmony, right? Because he doesn't actually have any missile units on the field currently. But we'll get in close and watch as the Nurglings, Forsaken of Nurgle, definitely very cool Forsaken variant, I have to say. Kind of glowing green bits are very, very appropriate, and I don't know. Just a fan of the Forsaken models in general with the recolor, like the rusty armor and such. Looks so good. Nurglings, absolutely amazing. They're just the best. Their animations make me so happy. The way that they've been realized in-game. The Spawn of Nurgle, probably wish they had more unique unit models, but there you go. You can see that the Herald is painfully slow. 27 speed. Is, you know, he's technically faster than the Plague Bearers, but still, definitely not great. So we're going to move in, and Turin's kind of just going to concede this point. I mean, even with this heavy single entity spend, the fact that we've got the Spawn here with all the healing means I can just sustain through his damage. The Sentinels do quite a bit of weapon damage with 65 attack, magic damage. They're, of course, unbreakable. Yeah, just really strong for the cost, but they also are quite slow, and they can get surrounded pretty easily. It's kind of the typical, you know, giant or treeman problem, right? But anyway, we've got some more forces coming in on reinforcements. Nurglings and Plague Toads summoned in first. We got the Furies just moving in to engage on the Peasant Spears and the Jade Warrior Halberds. Basically, I want to try and play Turin a little bit forward from the objective here so that I can secure this easily without him even being able to get within range to secure. And then if Turin wants to concede this center position or even fight me for it, I'm fine either way. If he wants to go down and just stand on that low ground objective and not fight me again, I'm fine with that too. But the Sentinel's going to get into combat here. Nurglings saturating in on the Peasant Spears. We're going to get the Plague Bears moving through too. Meow Ying for a little rear charge. Sentinel doing some fancy twirling attacks. Doing some pretty good damage, no doubt, but at the same time, not really. Neither of these units have really taken too much damage, and the Herald gets hit by Miao Ying, but at the same time, he can get back up. With the Spawn, especially, helping to provide some mass and some proper hitting power, that will be of benefit. Of course, everything gives poison, so the weapon strength on all these Cathayan units will be debuffed. And again, because we've kind of managed to guard turn away from the objective, I can get in and secure both, all the objectives obviously come off timer, off cooldown at the same time. They're now all active, so we're going to secure with the Toads here, and again, just try and keep turn, because I'm a slow faction. Cathay's somewhat slow. They do have some mobility. Turn bringing in some Jade Lancers and some Jade Crossbowmen here in order to try and contest these objectives, but in general, I want to try and keep him forward off the points as much as I can. Jade Lancers down on the low ground, though, are going to be able to secure this point. Can't really contest there too much. But in the center, this unholy blob definitely favors me. You can see the Cathayan support units, Spearmen, long gone. So now these big, expensive single entities are all surrounded by Nurglings, they're surrounded by Spawn, they're surrounded by Plague Bears, and this is very much, I feel, the style that Nurgling wants to play, right? You can see I am popping a heal on the Spawn of Nurgle here. That Fleshy Abundance will restore a significant amount of HP. There's still 14 unit models still alive there as well, so we should be able to get plenty of healing without any overhealing. And then, yeah, just securing the objectives. Peasant Spearmen, or Peasant Horsemen, rather, can come through. They can contest, but even Nurglings can hold them back. Over here, Turn's committing some more resources, and I'm probably eventually going to lose this. But if we can at least hold for the time being to continue to generate victory tickets here at an advantage, that is going to be beneficial. But we've got Beast of Nurgle coming in, more Nurglings, more Plague Toads as well. Turin also summoning in some reinforcements, Peasant Horsemen, and Jade Warrior Crossbowmen, just more cheap troops to try and saturate the battlefield. But the Beast of Nurgle unfortunately doesn't cause terror. That would be very beneficial in a situation like this. But at the very least, we can keep all of these Cathayan units, again, kind of guarded away. And if you remember, in terms of capture power, these Nurglings do have quite a bit of capture power. And the fact they only have 60 models with quite a bit of HP per model means that they can maintain their capture power fairly well. Same thing with Spawn, too, right? Monstrous infantry count as infantry for capture power, as you'll hear me say in all these videos upcoming, because it's a very important point to make. Healing Spawn, as a result, it follows, will be quite good, even if they don't end up doing that much damage. If they can just sustain and hold this ground, they are certainly out-capturing all the monsters here. The Turn has to get some infantry onto this center objective to capture it from the Spawn, and right now I'm able to hold most of his infantry back, even if we're not necessarily winning decisively. Kind of just dragging them around in the snowy mud, which is, again, appropriate to Nurgle. The Beast of Nurgle here, and the Toads still holding out. Those Peasant Long Spears can't do much. Even the Jade Warrior Halberds are struggling. Just the chaotic nature of this engagement, no pun intended. The fact that all these unit models are kind of all spread out. One benefit of the Toads, you'll notice, is they do tend to, like that guy just went for an absolute ride. Like the Toads animations tend to fling infantry unit models all over the place. Like they have excellent stagger, and then the Nurglings kind of mix in between in those gaps. Beast of Nurgle also same thing, pretty good attack animations for sending infantry models flying. So we'll get in close and watch the Beasts and the Toads do their work. You can see the Furies attacking there in the distance. But who wants to watch low-tier troops fight? What you really want to watch is these two Terracotta Sentinels and their very flashy attack animations. You can see the Herald still waving his little sickly blade around. We've got another Beast of Nurgle coming in here with Spawn. Miao Ying has transformed back into human form to try and get some healing spells out. Definitely pretty solid. I don't know if Turin actually brought... Yeah, Talons of the Night is the one that you can cast in dragon form, which is pretty solid to do that AoE damage against Nurgle, but at the same time, I understand wanting to just heal sustain these Terracotta Sentinels. They are at low risk of getting killed, but at the same time, how much work are they actually doing here? Because again, I am maintaining this objective. You'll see briefly, like especially once the infantry come into range, it might flip back over to Turin briefly, at least in terms of the capture, but remember that he has to fully capture the point to take it from me, right? So the Nurgle here, Herald of Nurgle, popping another heal, I believe, on... Oh no, was that actually... Yeah, Earthblood from Miao Ying actually on Cathay. in order to kind of counteract my sustain a little bit. We've got the Cultist now in here. He does have Armor Sundering, which is a great synergy with, like, Plague Bears, and he happens to have a Plague Bear summon, so we're going to summon said gross boys right on top of these Jade Warrior Halberds, and then they're immediately all going to start fighting. Jade Warrior Halberds having their armor sundered and getting attacked on all fronts, just absolutely circle beaten by these gross dudes. They are definitely going to have a bad time in that engagement. Also, considering I had secured this point pretty well, again, the Toads are kind of playing forward almost into Turin's deployment zone here. I can bring the Nurglings and the other Toads, this other Beast of Nurgle, to continue to help secure this center. Turin eventually did get enough units into range here. You can see as these Jade Warriors and even the Archers and multi-model units piled in, he was able to get enough capture power to wrest it from me. So now I've got to get rid of these Jade Warrior Halberds, and unfortunately Nurgle doesn't have a lot of great burst damage outside of magic and a handful of units. But we can just try and sustain and continue to throw bodies. That's one thing I can do well. So to that effect, we're going to continue to bring in like Nurglings and other units on reinforcements, try and recapture this point here. These two Nurglings also in the Beast of Nurgle, if we can get them up and around and in, that would be very beneficial. Point number one, though, is at a little bit of risk of being taken here. These Plague Toads are eventually going to get worn down by archers and spears and just everything kind of working together. Crane Gunners also teeing off on them from a distance, so the not Jazales here. I mean, the Plague Toads, the armor doesn't really matter too much. It's really just the DPS, long-range DPS that you're looking for with the Crane Gunners, right? But they definitely can do enough to get rid of the Toads. Question is, in the center, can the Cathayans continue to hold? The Peasant Horsemen, Jade Lancers, all getting seen off. No problems with the Terracotta Sentinel. Even Miao Ying herself is perfectly healthy at this point. She's fighting the sickly man, Mr. Cultist of Nurgle here. It's actually not taking too much damage from her, and continues to armor sunder with his little rotten wood there. A little rotten tree branch for a weapon. You gotta love it. Just absolutely love Nurgle. And the spooky, scary monster slug also contributing to this fight. Again, just another cheap single entity to do a little bit of AP, even though it is obviously significantly lower tier monster than the Terracotta Sentinel. With all of the Nurglings in support and the spawn still hanging around, this spawn has actually just about got to its healing cap because of all the spells and AoE heals I've been putting into it. So that's pretty good for me, but have we actually captured this objective? No, we have not. And Turin is starting to close the distance. I also need to avoid getting 3-capped if I can, so I need to get some more Nurglings onto this point to contest against the cavalry. Lots of Furies come in. Furies are super important as Nurgle to be mobile, as one of your few, like, very fast units. They definitely can get in, and with 36 attack, 44 weapon strength, poison damage, deal with these lower tier units quite easily. With the Nurglings, we should be able to hold that capture point. Here in the center, though, where the main action's happening, we'll get back in cinematic cam. I know a lot of people like when I get these cinematic shots, even if I am running this on a laptop and it's, you know, not necessarily as good looking as it could be if I were on my old desktop. But there you go. At least we're here making content for you guys, and it has been an absolute pleasure, I should say. And you'll also hear this in all of these Domination videos. I really enjoy Domination mode. I think it's an absolute blast to play. Hopefully you guys enjoy watching it as much as you did the previous battles, but yeah, it's definitely some different strategies, things to consider. Like, I am contesting this center point well, but we're still just not able to generate enough capture power. All these Nurglings are pretty well worn down, so their capture power is somewhat nerfed, right? So the Furies, having helped secure point 1, are going to swoop over and just try and interrupt anything else from getting into the capture point, while I bring in these regrouped Forsaken here. We've got 2 more units of Forsaken of Nurgle also coming in. One is going to countercharge these Peasant Horsemen. They'll be able to wipe them pretty quickly, but the other is just going to force path into the objective. Again, try and get those infantry models onto the capture point to start to wrest control. We have a tiny bit of control, but it's still being held by Turin, and he is close to taking the lead on tickets by now. So brutally close at this point. Cultist bro rushing in here. Again, the armor sundering is going to be great against any of these targets, especially with high weapon damage. Units like Forsaken and Plague Bears both. Both good AP overall. I mean, just high overall weapon damage. 15 AP per swing on the Forsaken of Nurgle is not too bad, but of course Armor Sundering just helps them do even more damage. The fact that the Terracotta only has 100 means that minus 30 does put it at 70, which is enough to make a pretty significant difference in an engagement. More Forsaken piling in here, having beaten back those Peasant Horsemen. And finally, we're able to generate enough capture power with the Forsaken coming in and actually doing some proper damage to the Jade Warriors. That is one way of dealing, you know, anti-infantry DPS. Unfortunately, though, the Herald finally gets singled out here by two angry single entities without any support around. He is taking some damage, but at the same time, he's not getting absolutely destroyed. I mean, 52 melee defense is enough that in a sustained fight, he can block a few hits, not take every single hit to the face, and he himself has also getting close to his healing cap, has dedicated a lot of resources to healing himself, so just a big, messy, gross fight here in the center, which again is exactly the way that Nurgle would want this. Definitely don't want Cathay able to fight in ordered ranks with clean lines and, you know, take the engagement on their terms. Just want to drag them down into the mud, you know, bring them to the Nurglings level, right, so to speak. And we were able to finally recapture the center objective. It's super, super close, though. Have I captured that objective with enough time to actually win? And more importantly, can I hold objective number 1 as Turin rushes in with some more Peasant Longspears, Jade Crossbowmen, Peasant Horsemen, Jade Lancers? I only have the one Nurgling actually counting as capturing, right? Because Furies cannot capture points. We do have another unit of Nurglings close by, though, able to reinforce in a timely manner. Oh, it's so close at this point, though. The tickets count is basically neck and neck. I mean, I should be able to pass him as long as I can maintain the capture on these 2 points. The center one is well secured with many forces. The Sentinels are still going to be fighting. They've literally been fighting there the entire time. But so has the Herald, and I've been able to maintain my forces well enough. The question is, will point number 1 hold? The Nurglings making their final stand. We've got Toads rushing in here. The Furies are disintegrating, or rather being banished, more appropriately. But the Nurglings, this clutch Nurgling did get in on the capture point, and we're losing it. But we held it just long enough to barely pull ahead on tickets, and I mean, it's literally like 105 tickets difference. One of the closest games I played in this early access time period, so great game to turn, big GG on that one. Really enjoyed, and this is a matchup that him and I have played a couple times, and I've used a similar build at both times to pretty good effect. The first one was more one-sided in my favor, but second time around, the double Sentinel did better. But this healing sustained blob of the Herald of Nurgle plus the spawns, both the spawns did end up pretty much paying for themselves in terms of damage output, but I really wish we could see a damage taken as well, because I'm sure they would have both taken an extraordinary amount of damage, all things considered. Same thing with the Herald himself, too. He's not super expensive, but he's not super cheap either. As sort of a slow footcaster lord, he's pretty decent, though. I mean, the heals are definitely very legit, and the fact that he can tank some damage on foot does benefit as well. Forsaken able to do pretty decently. Of course, the mobility of the Furies, and the Nurglings also having Vanguard, being able to be deployed on those Vanguard points. It's a huge benefit to them, and super useful for Nurgle. The Cultist also came in, didn't generate a ton of value in and of himself, but the Summon probably got some pretty good value, and then the Armor Sundering also helped synergize with some of these other troops, helping these other Forsaken come in, clean up those Jade Warriors. Both the Beasts of Nurgle didn't pay for themselves, but hey, they're fun. They contribute also. The Furies, again, definitely super clutch. And the Nurglings. Nurglings are just so good, honestly. They're so fun, and they're so good. So best of both worlds. For turns, Grand Cathay here. I mean, you would expect some inflated values on these 3 single entities grinding on that center objective, because I was healing my units so much. And that is the case. I mean, Miao Ying, 3,600 value, 2,100 on one Sentinel, 2,200 on the other Sentinels. They definitely paid for themselves. Peasant Longspear is also pretty cost-effective as well. I think, yeah, even the Jade Lancers, a little bit of a mixed bag. I think he might have resummoned them both a couple of times. The Peasant Horsemen, though, I mean, I get trying to outmaneuver Nurgle to a degree, but when they have a point strongly held like that, these Peasant Horsemen aren't going to do a lot for you. And I don't know. The Crane Gunners did end up paying for themselves. I would think if you could keep rockets protected from Furies, they would be pretty good in this matchup. The fire damage, of course, nerf healing, and just being able to, broadcast AoE damage across the map, basically, with those rockets. The fact that they're so good against low armor units means, like, any kind of plague bears, nurglings, anything that gets hit by them, pretty much it will benefit you. But that's if you can keep them protected. Fury's definitely going to be coming after the rockets if you have any, so just be aware of that. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I know I sure have been enjoying playing Domination so much, so I can't wait for you all to get your hands on it as well, so I can have, plenty more opponents and more replays to cast and just more of everything. Don't get me wrong, Turn's an awesome dude, and I've really enjoyed getting to play some games with him. It's been an honor, but both of us agree, like, once this gets into the general public's hands, that's when we really see, how things will shake out, because we can make sort of our own judgments about balance and what things are good, what things are not good, and try to come up with some, ideas to relay to you guys. But ultimately, once things are out in the wild and you have, just thousands of people throwing their brains at a specific problem, then you come up with some really innovative solutions, right? So can't wait to see what you guys do once you get your hands on it, is what I'm saying. I'm probably just as excited as you, to be honest. So hopefully you enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.